You know,
Yeah.
manko means pussy in
How
Japanese.
many people are in this space? How do
He
you
was
see?
Well,
It's so fitting.
How many people?
okay,
How do you
okay.
tell?
I don't. What is
It's
happening with this?
true.
What
It's
is
literally
happening with this
true.
space? What is this space degraded to? Like,
It's a
whenever it gets to
fact.
2 a.m., if people listen to space, they're like, okay, it's professional through all the time, and then when it gets to this time, it's like it just. You from Dubai as well? Don't say you are, bro.
No, I'm in
Oh,
Texas.
If
all right, cool. All
SNEAKO's
right,
in,
okay,
SNEAKO, I love you.
we'll come
I
to
just
you.
want to say that.
We'll come to you in a second. We'll come to you in a second, Brandon. Scott,
Okay.
SNEAKO, thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, bro? I just saw some of that debate with Jewel from Sartorial Shooter. Good guy.
Yeah, I like tutorial, but I think it probably didn't go across well. I don't know. Did I do? Do you think I handled it wrong? Do you think I should have been more nice and just let him say what he wanted to say?
Well, I don't think you said anything wrong. I mean, there are a lot of royals that are leaving the UAE right now, right? I mean, I just saw Ronaldo got on a flight leaving Saudi. A lot of that stuff is true. He's saying it's propaganda. I can understand why he's defending Dubai, but yeah, I mean, I don't think you said anything wrong.
I don't know. He was a bit upset. He said I ambushed him.
Ambushed him. Okay, I don't see how you ambushed him. But he's a good
I
guy.
don't get it. I mean, I like the guy, but it's just the Dubai state position, isn't it? And obviously, we don't agree with them. Like the connection with the Zionists, the things they've done in Sudan, like everything about them is just against the values that we believe in. What's your thoughts?
Well, I heard you say that you got banned from Dubai. How do you figure that stuff out? Because obviously people know it's not probably really strategic to say things about the Gulf countries because they do take that stuff seriously.
Yeah, but I didn't say, because I went back and looked at my tweets, and I was looked back and thought, like, have I said anything bad about them? And I'd say generally, if you looked at my tweets, there weren't like anything bad about them. So it's the only reason I could have got the banned is because of Israel.
Yeah, well, how did you hear you got banned? I'm wondering if I...
So basically what happened was, I got a flight. I was in Turkey and, but no, sorry, I was in Budapest. So I was going to get to Dubai. There was like an indirect flight. So I went to Turkey first. And then when I went to Turkey, I was trying to get into Dubai. And they were like, look, we can't let you in. Your ticket's not been issued. It took ages. And then afterwards she said, basically Dubai security specifically have said you're banned. And it's because of like, it's high up. So
Wait,
then
so you went and then you got rejected at the airport?
I got rejected in Turkey to go to the Dubai. So they wouldn't let me in from Dubai, yeah. And then I basically tried to find out to try and get it reversed, right? And then quite a few people that I know in Dubai who are quite high up and connected were like, it's just a very high security thing. Like one of them, you may, like obviously I don't want to mention it because I don't want to dub the person in, but you know some of these people as well. Basically was like, he literally got scared. It was so high up, he was like, he didn't want even, at first he was going to try and sort it out, and then he wasn't even willing to like, get it reversed.
So do you think, based off of what I talk about, am I going to be put in a bad position, or would I have the same issue?
Maybe, but I think I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's 50-50 with them, isn't it? Because you know what happened to Neon. Neon got arrested when he did something there,
yeah.
And then Tam Khan had to get him out. So it just depends on what level of a problem is going to occur. But it depends, because obviously right now their narrative isn't. I have no idea with you, because I think someone like you, if you got banned, you just put it on video straight away, and then it'd probably be worse for them, I'm presuming.
Right. I'm curious about the war updates from today. I've been doing my coverage for several hours. Are there major updates?
Oh yeah, huge updates. So we have earlier on today, Israel invaded into Lebanon on a ground invasion. And so they're going to go in, and if you remember in 2024, they tried this, but they lost. So this time they're going to go in, they'll try and I think what the Hezbollah are going to do is they're going to let them get in a bit more deeper than last time. Last time they only let them get in like a few miles in, maybe 5 or 10 miles in, and then they just took them out.
Mm-hmm.
But this time I think they're going to let them go in a bit more deeper and then ambush them. So I don't think it's a smart move, but the reason they're going in is because Hezbollah over this time have been able to accumulate a large number of drones and missiles, but mainly drones, through the SAA after the the overthrowing of Bashar and them becoming defunct. So what's going to happen is they had all them drones and they've been attacking Israel with it. So they think that this is the only way they're going to get them, because they've been bombing Beirut from the air, but that's not helping. So that's the first thing, is the invasion, the ground invasion into Lebanon adds another dynamic to it. The second big news we've got is from the Kurdish side, the Americans are going to arm the Kurds to invade into Iran. And so as something I said a very long time ago, I think American... Sorry?
Yeah, I saw that. That was the major update. The CIA is arming the Kurds to try to attack Iran from the inside.
Yeah, and through the border as well, and that's why the Iranians have got 100,000 people, 100,000 IRGC members ready in the border. So they're more prepped than the Syrians were, and they're ready to try and fight back. But that's going to be one. And I think if that fails, because they're putting their eggs in this kind of Kurd/Balochi/MEK basket, and if that fails, then you may have, I think it's more unlikely, but there is a small chance that then you would be forced to have an American invasion.
Okay, so ground troops, it does seem inevitable. There was a Professor Jang lecture yesterday, and he's got a lot of the stuff right. I've been bringing him on stream in 4 days. He's assuming that the Gulf countries are going to eventually go bankrupt because the U.S. cannot defend the Gulf countries against these attacks. And now the reputation that Dubai has of being the safest country in the world, it's no longer the same, right? You even said it against Sartorial. He was saying, come visit, come stay in a hotel. And you said, I don't want to stay in a hotel because it could get bombed, right? And especially, they're not bombing civilians. They are targeting military personnel staying in the hotels. But that reputation that it's the safest city, I mean, I like Dubai. I have no problem. I like the UAE. It's always been a good experience. But that reputation, let's be real for a second, it's not the same reputation anymore.
Well, yeah, that's it. That was the only thing that made UAE good was this safety aspect of it. Because other than that, what does UAE have that you don't get in other countries? And then the negativity of being part of the UAE is horrible. Like, if you look at it, the way they treat the underclass, the way there's many things, there's no free speech. Like, many of the things that we speak about, you can't speak about it. Like, do you not think it's strange, SNEAKO, that you go to the United States of America, you go to the UK, you go to anywhere in Europe, and you have pro-Palestinian protests? Do you think people in Dubai aren't pro-Palestine? And if they are, then why is there's no protest? Because they're not allowed to. There's no free speech there at all.
Yeah, he did accurately bring up, though, that the UK is arresting people for speech violations. And even in the US, people saw me being persecuted for exercising my right to free speech after the Klobuchar situation. It wasn't legal, but the Miami Beach mayor did say I'm no longer welcome in Miami because I listened to a song he didn't like. And then I was banned from all hospitality groups. Part of, most of the hospitality groups, the major ones, all work together to ban me from the restaurants and clubs. So that is an example of free speech being violated in America. Obviously, it's not the same extent as you can compare it to in the GCC, right? There's a lot of things.
What would happen there, though?
That's pure supremacy, though.
I guess, and SNEAKO, my question to you is, if, and you're right about that, and in the UK, those people being arrested, but the High Court overturned it, and none of these people have been actually in prison. They've not been charged. It's been overturned in terms of Palestine action. But my question to you is, let's say you'd violated in the same way in Dubai. What do you think would have happened in comparison to not like being allowed into Miami Beach, but what would happen in Dubai?
Based off of what I've heard, and we all know, I mean, we all know the difference, right?
And that's my point. So they don't, like, this is the issue. Like, there is a situation in Dubai that there is this tiered system. And I think the bigger issue I've got with Dubai, actually, even though I've always called out the fact that the way they treat the underclass there, the way they treat, and this is why I love America, and this is why I love the UK, even though we disagree with it, is this idea that all man is equal, irrespective of race, religion, or creed. You don't have that in any of these other countries. So as much as people shit on the US or shit on the UK, we actually don't have that same issue. We probably have more Islamic values in that aspect compared to those countries.
I think something major that I just learned is that the Strait of Hormuz, which has been closed by Iran, not only does 20% of the world's oil go through the strait, but countries in the GCC, they don't get a lot of fresh water. So a lot of the water and food, pretty much all of it, it is imported in. So the Strait of Hormuz closing does prevent the water and food supply from coming in properly if it's all coming from the rest of the world. We all know that most of the workers there, the lower class, they come in, predominantly from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines, a lot of Southeast Asia. But also this strait prevents the food coming in and fresh water coming in. So this economy could suffer greatly if Iran decides to punish them the way that they possibly could.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And not just that. You're going to see, it was the president of Serbia, I believe. he came out today quite accurately and stated that in the Europe, it's going to be an economic collapse if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, and people will be suffering greatly. It's going to be the biggest recession there's ever been, worse than even the 20s, if the Strait remains closed. Trump knows that. That's why he came out with this statement and said that they're going to send US Navy vessels to escort ships in the Strait of Hormuz, which is, in my view, delusions from his side. But do you think he can do that?
So he could do what?
So his plan is to send US Navy ships to escort basically carriers who are carrying, like, you know, traded goods or whatever it may be through the strait. So basically to commandeer them through. So the question is, like, I think that's simply impossible. There's no way or no scenario he could send US Navy ships to the Strait of Hormuz to help the goods get through. But that's his plan.
It's possible, but it seems very unlikely. And the reason he's saying this is because so much of the U.S. global economy relies on the GCC. You know, so much, not only so much of the oil, but for the fact that the GCC countries, they trade oil using the petrodollar. So that's what keeps the U.S. economy alive. That's what keeps the stock market flowing, and is really the reason behind the U.S. empire. Because the U.S. empire is based on the dollar, and the dollar is not valued on anything. There were $38 trillion in debt. There's no longer the gold standard. So if these countries aren't trading oil and they're not using the petrodollar anymore, then it could slowly cause major problems to U.S. economy, and that would change American empire.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you look at what's happening now in terms of the U.S. empire, is if you look at any country that's connected to the U.S., they're suffering greatly. So just today we found out that in Korea, there's been a 12% drop in the stock market because of what's happened in the Strait of Hormuz. Korea being vastly connected to the United States of America. We've seen, obviously, these Arab countries, what's happening to them. They are being harmed. I know you're saying Professor Zhang thinks that they're going to completely collapse. It's an interesting notion. And if that was to happen, that would just be chaos. But yeah, it's basically becoming like, if you're connected to the United States of America, because of Israel, you're going to lose out in a significant manner. What's your thoughts on that?
On the U.S. losing out, or thoughts on what specifically?
Basically, all of these countries are now going to have a decision to make. Like, do you stay a U.S. ally and then get harmed? In the Gulf, it is being harmed by being bombed, and in, for example, Korea, it is being harmed or in Europe, it's being harmed by significant losses in the stock market or various other ways in energy.
I don't think that they would change. I don't think that they would switch and work with another empire. I think there was a statement from Saudi today saying that they condemned the attacks. I don't think the entire economy switches and works with somebody else, right? The American empire is extremely fruitful. So, I mean, I don't know what you think, but you can kind of understand why Iran is upset, because, you know, they claim neutrality, but they are working with the U.S. directly, and the U.S. is serving the interests of Israel. So from the Iranian perspective, they see the GCC as siding with the enemy, the great Satan, as they call it.
Well, this is the problem with the GCC, because they claim they're not involved, but they're allowing Israel and the United States of America to use their airspace. They're allowing them to go over, you know, they're allowing them to sometimes use their bases. They're allowing them to use a wide range of things. Now, the bases they deny, even though Chinese satellite shows a number of U.S. aircrafts in their bases. But there's no doubt, we've got confirmation that KC tankers are being used above their airspace. So they are complicit directly in this war, because if they weren't able to use their airspace, they'd be struggling to go after Iran.
Yeah, so I'm wondering how long it's going to take. The timeline is interesting, and it seems like the response could be to try to starve out and try to do the same thing. It's not going to be direct warfare. I'm wondering when the troops are going to be deployed, but both empires, U.S., Israel, or the Epstein Empire, it seems like it's a war about resources, about food. Before troops will get deployed, they're basically strong-arming each other and see who could starve out the enemy first.
You mentioned Professor Zhang thinks that these countries are going to collapse. What's his kind of, how does he believe that's going to happen?
So, because it's the food supply, it's the food and water supply. The Strait of Hormuz blocking off the food coming in. There's no fresh water in that region. It all comes from other places, right? So you want to have a ratio about, so if there's 100% fresh water, you want to be using 10% of your fresh water. The countries in that region are using about 1,700%, up to 1,700% of their fresh water supply. Some of them are using 800%, 600%. So there's no direct, there's not enough real resources in the land. They can't survive off the land. It all comes externally. So if Iran strong arms and is still upset with the GCC and they keep it shut and they prevent the water and food from coming in, then eventually those countries will collapse.
And so he believes that Iran's and those countries are going to remain in conflict, and then those countries will collapse.
Exactly, because this is a way to affect the U.S. empire. So it's an indirect warfare. You get the economy,
Now,
get the economy as well as hitting military personnel. But this is the objective before troops. So what I think this is going to be several weeks. Strong arming, see who folds first. The U.S. And Israel are probably going to try to hit. There's a lake in Iran where they get the fresh water. They're going to try to destroy that supply and then get Iran to fight each other from within, right? Because it's extremely diverse. They have a lot of different ethnic groups, and that already started today, right? If the CIA is trying to arm the Kurds to work against the Iranian regime, get Iran to fight it from within and get them to fight over their food and water supply as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I said it months ago that the aim is going to be to create the Syria model. And that's quite clearly what they're trying to do. But I still think that they failed in that as well, because Iran realized that that's what they were going to do based on what happened in Syria, and they've got the IRGC soldiers ready on the border. So I think that's going to fail as well.
Can you explain what happened in Syria specifically?
Well, what happened in Syria was the ruler of Syria was Bashar al-Assad. Mm-hmm. And I know many Sunnis disagree with Bashar. Obviously, I'm not sectarian, so I just look at it from a geopolitical perspective. The Bashar al-Assad was running that country, and there was this color revolution that occurred, which was promoted by the CIA and Mossad. And if you see what happened in Iran, they tried to do the same thing in the Iranian protests, but this time with Russia, they were able to cut the internet off, and they were able to cut Starlink off. Bashar didn't do that. In my view, Bashar basically allowed the protest to grow a bit too long, and the CIA and Mossad got involved, and they started propagating and promoting the protests. And then what happened was they armed ISIS, they armed Jabhat al-Nusra, they armed a number of rebel groups, they paid mercenaries from Central Asia, all of who came in, and then you saw basically the fight internally between those people and Bashar's army. America themselves, other than some elite soldiers, didn't really have boots on the ground. It was done in causing a civil war. And there were a few times over the last 13 years where the rebels almost won. And then, like, for example, one instance, Russia came and saved them. And then obviously saw recently they got overthrown. But 13 years of complete chaos, weakening of Syria, complete destruction, internal war, both sides basically killing each other in order to try and stay in the situation, resulted in complete destruction and havoc. But America didn't do boots on the ground. And that's what I believe that the plan for Iran was. That was the only logical outcome from what I could see where America could have some kind of win. But Iran's obviously foreseen that. And so they've cut off the attempts by the Kurds, the Balochs, and the MEK to try and do that in Iran. Now, obviously, there is a small possibility this could happen, but I think it's kind of been cut off and it's diminished.
So you think Iran learned from Syria's mistakes and shut off? Oh, one thing I didn't hear you mention is that Mike Pompeo, former CIA director to Trump's first admin, he said that the protests in Iran were CIA Mossad. But you think that they learned from Syria's mistakes and shut down the protests by cutting off the internet before it got too bad?
100%. That was literally what they did. They've learned from Syria's mistakes, and they made the best move ever. And they got obviously getting the Russian help to cut off Starlink, because that's what Musk did. He sent Starlinks there in the hundreds. It was literally the best move. They saved their country.
Okay, so why do you think the number? Where's the figure that keeps saying, okay, Khomeini killed 30,000 protesters? It's like the new 6 million for Iran. Where are they getting these figures?
It's a fake number, and actually there's varying figures. There's like 32,000, even some figures say 200,000. It's an Iranian, so there's two places they get it from. One is called Iran International, which is a media outlet which is run by basically these monarchists / Zionists. And the other source is this Iran Human Rights organization, which again is run by this feminist woman who was propped up after she left Iran, and she and she's obviously anti this government, and so she's been propagating, and she's head of that organization. So the numbers are completely fabricated. They're not based on any real information. Iran themselves have come out and given the names of 3,117 people. I believe there was an organization, it was like some UN organization, I believe, who gave the figure of 6,800. Iran said that, look, any people over 3,117, if we're lying, just give us the names of those people, and they've not been able to furnish it. My own position is, look, you will probably miss out some people. So if someone can furnish maybe 500 names or 1,000 names, then we'll say, okay, Iran figures are fake. I think that would be the best way to go about it. In terms of what's the right figure, in my view, it's going to be something between the 3 and 6 figure.
Okay, and where are you getting the 3 and 6 figures from? Iranian state media?
So 3,117 is officially from Iran's government. And they've given the names of each individual person. The figure of 6,800, I believe, and I forgot where it's from. It's some non-biased human rights organization, but I forgot which one it was. I'll have to dig it up.
And this was also, I mean, Mike Pompeo admitted that CIA was infiltrating these protests. How much of these figures can we blame on the Ayatollah, and how much can we blame on CIA?
It's a really good question, and we can never know. So I guess we're assuming, like with October the 7th, I can give you the exact figures where I think, who killed what, how many people were killed, and I can say, look, like for example, I think Hamas, the resistance, only killed a couple of hundred people themselves, right? But with this, we're just kind of guessing. So we know the 3,117 figures there. We know that Mossad killed a lot of them. We know the CIA did. We know they were burning mosques. They were burning Islamic seminaries. They were burning government buildings. They had guns on them. So just based on the balances of probability and based on the names that were given by the government, and they're saying, look, largely these names were Mossad agents, CIA agents, you'd say, I mean, I can't say, but if you were looking at it from the Iranian side, their claim is that the vast majority, if not all of them are, the overwhelming majority are, with few being killed in the crossfire, and the ones that were killed, they claim, was also killed by Mossad. So, but I don't know. I can't really ascertain a guess because it's just guessing completely.
Okay. What major updates from today? So that they started mentioning they didn't rule out the possibility of more American troops putting boots on the ground in Iran. What's your prediction based off what you've seen today? Or what do you think about the American response? The video's going around, Trump looking really dejected at an event yesterday when he was speed walking away from the reporters. What could we conclusively say from today?
Yeah, so first thing before I go to that is France is sending another aircraft carrier. So now we'll have 3 aircraft carriers in the region. So France is directly involved. So I believe that the aircraft carrier is probably going to be stationed near the Abraham Lincoln as opposed to the Gerald Ford, which is stationed near Israel. So that's the first big news as well, because that means France is directly involved. In terms of whether there's going to be boots on the ground, I'm still thinking there won't be. I know many people do think they will, but I believe that if that happens, it's just going to be so many Americans going home in body bags. It's going to be crazy. Like, I just think the public, I think Trump just couldn't survive something like that. And Trump is quite fickle. He does care about what people say. And so I just still think that might not happen. And I think the more likelihood chance is America's going to retreat because they're losing so badly. So I think America's losing. They're not getting what they want. So I'm with your Professor Jang on that. We've been saying this for the last few days. America's losing. Iran's hit them so hard in all of their military bases. They've almost given up on the GCC to protect them. The military bases in the GCC are almost non-functional. Yeah. In Israel, the military bases are almost non-functional as well. Today, Hezbollah hit the Negev air base as well. So America's going to retreat. I think what's going to happen, if I had to guess, is, and this is just a guess because the rest of it is like just thingy, I think if America retreats, Trump's just going to say, we won. He'll say, I killed the Ayatollah, I won. Obviously, I'm not as good at impressions as you, but he'll be like, I had a great victory. We killed the Ayatollah. We killed Soleimani. I killed the bad guy. We've got a deal now. They agreed not to do the nuclear. And then when he goes back, he'll just release the sanctions and say, because then I've got an agreement with the new leader, we're going to release the sanctions, but really it'll be America losing, but he'll try and frame it like he hasn't lost.
So I saw a report today from Macron. So he is he's bringing aircraft in to support U.S.-Israel. Did he also say, there was one report today I saw Macron was not supportive of what Israel-Iran was doing?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw Macron saying that, and then since then he agreed to give the aircraft carrier. So again, we don't know if it's because of the whole Epstein class thing or whatever it is, but something changed or resulted in him moving his aircraft carrier to the region. And he may change his mind, but at the moment, that's the latest news.
Okay, so he changed his mind about joining a war twice in a day.
I mean, likely, yeah. I mean, I did see both of them, so both of the things happened. He did make the statement you said, and they've confirmed that they're going to send the aircraft carrier.
What about Keir Starmer? So he was saying that he was going to join. Have they deployed any equipment?
Well, this is the funny one again, and it's funny you mentioned this because it just shows the contradictory nature of these people. Because initially, France, Germany, and the UK said they were going to join. Then, as you said, Macron came out with that statement. Keir Starmer, who you know is a Jewish Zionist, literally initially said that they weren't going to get involved. Then they said they were. He wasn't going to allow Trump to use the Diego Garcia base. Then he said that they will be allowed. Trump came out with a statement and said that he was not happy about the fact that Keir Starmer wasn't willing to support offensively. So it seems like he's trying to play the middle of the ground, but at the moment, no, it doesn't. But it's all fake because in reality, there's a lot of RAF fighter jets that are there. They're helping with the refueling and like they did in True Promise 3, 2 and 1. But in terms of the way France has done, at the moment, the UK hasn't gone that far.
Trump also said, I think last night, that he was going to put embargoes on Spain if they did not join the war. How serious is that? And can other NATO-aligned countries expect to see the same punishment for not fighting the Epstein war?
Well, it's interesting because Europe is, first of all, Trump can't put an embargo on Spain, but maybe he'll put some tariffs on, and even those tariffs are going to be what they've been now.
Why can't Trump put an embargo on Spain?
Why can't he put an embargo on Spain?
Yeah, that's what he was threatening.
Yeah, he won't do it. It's just hard to put an embargo on a specific country just because of the various trade agreements you have with those countries. So you mean sanctions? I just logically from experience, there's no way he'll put sanctions on a European country. It's just unheard of. European Union will get involved, and obviously, even though he doesn't care so much about them, there's a lot of trade between the two countries. Even now, on the tariffs, US made quite a bit of money on the tariffs, so he may put tariffs on it, but he won't do nothing to Spain. This is just all talk. It's all bravado, just like his talk about the Strait of Hormuz and sending Navy ships in. It's all fake. It's all bravado. None of that's going to happen whatsoever. But in terms of the Europe, they're suffering a lot, and it is because of the same thing your Professor Jang said, which is that when you look at this war, when you look at the fact that Europe was already suffering, Germany, because when they bombed Nord Stream, they basically resulted in Germany becoming almost subservient to Russia as opposed to and the United States of America and Poland compared to what happened before. So Europe's in a situation now where Europe was always America's patsy. And now what's happened is, because of this, what's happened in the Strait of Hormuz, what's happened because of the energy, Qatar shutting off the energy, because of, again, the attacks that have happened, Europe is, and I agree with the president of Serbia, Europe is so significantly diminished, Europe could completely lose out, and Europe's going to struggle. But Europe's going to be in a much more worse situation than anyone else. So any Trump tariff or sanctions, even though it's never going to happen, is nothing compared to what they're going through right now.
So what is the what's the expected timeline? We're hearing different figures from Rubio. Hegseth was asked the question, how long is the war going to last? And he said it was a liberal fake news. It was a liberal question asking how long the war is going to be. It's really hard to tell. I mean, Trump in his first term, he said, well, he sided with Dr. Fauci saying 2 weeks to stop the spread. So right now, if they're saying it could be 4 to 6 weeks, Netanyahu doesn't give a real figure. Can we expect this to drag out? It's definitely lasting longer than I think a lot of people originally anticipated it would.
It's going to last longer than people say, but at the same time, it just can't last long because US just don't have the firepower to last long. So initially, as you said, rightly said, they initially said 4 days. Then they said a week. Then they said, no, the first stage is going to be a week. And as you said, Trump said 4 weeks. The problem you have is it is going to be 4 weeks and it can't last more than 7 weeks or 8 weeks. It's just simply impossible. The numbers just don't add up. They just don't have enough firepower offensive. They don't have enough defensive interceptor missiles to stop the Iranian strikes. Right now, they're just depleting them so fast. It's unbelievable. There were reports that they might try and get some more supplies from Europe. But again, that's going to be what? Give you an extra 3-4 days probably. Then there's also conversations about Korea. but Korea just came out and said that they won't give it. So they're in a tough spot where even if they wanted to last, they just can't do so because of the amount of firepower they've got there. Now with the French aircraft carrier coming in, that'll give them again a bit more time, but it won't be that much. So the timeline is everything should be done and dusted within 6 to 7 weeks. And then it is going to either be, as I said, like in either an Iranian victory, in the sense victory for Iran means America lose it, America not succeeding in their plan, or it is an American, yeah, that's it basically.
And I'm of the belief that Israel benefits either way. American empire depleting because of this war, losing resources and losing their reputation as the global empire. Either way, Israel wins. I mean, we all know, I mean, hopefully everybody here knows that, you know, Israel has never sent troops to defend American war. They don't really support us. We don't get anything from them specifically. Most of this empire, most of this alliance is probably due to blackmail. So either way, the outcome is Israel benefits, because with an Iranian victory, they will also be greatly depleted. They're going to be exhausted from warfare, and Israel can maintain more power without American influence in the Middle East.
I had a conversation with someone about that. How is that though? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, how would that be? Explain it.
So right now, America does have hands meddling in Israel. So if we are depleted, then Israel is going to be able to take up the scraps that are left behind. You know, if say the GCC right now, they're backed up by US military bases. That's basically what was protecting them. The GCC doesn't have any real military. So they needed, the whole reason the US military bases were stationed there was to kind of threaten and show power, show dominance in the Middle East, because they are being supported by the GCC, and the economy works in tandem. So if the United States leaves, that's one less empire with meddling hands in the Middle East, and it could grow to the expansion of greater Israel, right? Without any sort of American influence, which they don't really want. I mean, they're using America as a colony right now, but what they really want is complete control, especially once Americans wake up and realize what's happening. Right now, Americans like Pete Hegseth, they are pushing the idea that it's a biblical prophecy that they need to fulfill. Right? We heard Ted Cruz say, God blesses those who bless the state of Israel. Mike Huckabee saying the same thing as well. So many of these evangelical Christians in American government really do believe that they are going to be rewarded by God to protect Israel because they're the chosen people.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I just think that if Iran was to win, I think that significantly weakens Israel. And the reason for that is because with the GCC, let's say those bases are hit, and let's say they don't have those bases anymore, or they're there as a weakened state, or they weaken American influence in the GCC. Well, Israel's entire occupation of that area is based on them leeching of the United States of America. And if they don't have like Big Daddy there helping them, they're going to be extremely weakened. You'll have basically Lebanon, you'll have Hezbollah can easily hit them. And if Iran, and in this scenario, Iran wins. So Iran could easily dominate them now. Now Iran becomes even more of a bigger power in the region. They're not able to stop that. The GCC countries are no longer used in order to harm Iran. Because the thing about Iran is that one of the things that has happened is, and why they've been hitting the GCC countries is because the US military bases, is because they use US airspace. If they're not able to do that anymore, what logical reason would the GCC allow a weakened Israel, which doesn't have the support of the United States of America, to use their airbase against a country that beat them? I think this is why I want Iran to win, because I actually think that it will be a major blow for Israel.
Yeah, they don't have the same military personnel as America, but they do have the Samson option. And I've seen former CIA say that Mossad has planted bombs around the world where, I mean, obviously, you know, hand-to-hand combat, they don't have the amount of boots on the ground. They don't have the numbers to support the loss they would get from losing America as a colony. But the Samson option, I think, yeah, that's a good question. That is, we have yet to see that. So I guess Israel, yeah, based off what you're saying, they really do need America to win this.
And that's why they're willing to sacrifice American soldiers, American lives. They're willing to sacrifice everything, because for me, this is for them it's the final piece, and for Iran it is the final war. And so this is it. This is everything now. So this is why it means so much to them, and this is why they've just gone all out. They've gone into Hezbollah, they've gone into Lebanon. Hezbollah's got involved. Everyone's got involved. This is it. Like, I don't see anything happening after this, other than maybe if Iran makes a mistake and does a deal, and then the Americans will come back again after 6 months. So this is literally the kind of the final battle.
Yeah, Netanyahu said he's been waiting 40 years to do this. He's been dying, and finally he found somebody in American empire to get the job done for him. So yeah, this does matter a great deal. I guess we're just going to keep having to stay updated every day. A lot of things are changing every day. There's a lot of factors going on. I'm wondering, when do you think Russia, China get involved? Because China's somewhat neutral. It seems like they're leaning towards Iran. And Putin's made it clear that if Israel uses nukes, that he's going to retaliate with the same amount of firepower.
China and Russia, for them, this war is so important. And I just don't believe that they're ignorant not to realize it. So therefore, if I know it, then they must know it. Because from China's perspective, and this is why China's been helping them out, and this is why, like, if you see a lot of, like, for example, drones that have been taken out, it's quite clear there are a lot of Chinese technology was sent there after the 12-day war. The thing is, because it was sent secretly, we were never able to ascertain what was sent. But for example, is the GC radar was sent, and I did a video on this explaining the different technologies, but the specifics is, when you look at some of the technologies that have been used, it does seem like the Chinese managed to get it there through the cargo ships. And the reason why this is so important for China is this: if Israel or the United States of America, whoever you want to look at it, whoever someone believes in charge is relevant to this situation, if they beat Iran, you now have control over the entirety of the Middle East all the way to Iran. Then already United States of America has control over the Central Asia. So imagine the US Israeli empire, whoever you think is in charge, I think it's Israel, but whoever you do, will have complete control and access through the whole of the Middle East, through Iran, through Central Asia, and they're in the doorstep of China. So from a Chinese perspective, if you're thinking long term, this would be, from a geopolitical geography perspective, would be a very bad decision. It would be a very bad decision not to be involved to make sure Iran wins. The second reason, and this applies to both Russia and China, and by the way, we've seen Russian technology being used, because some of the drones that there was some tracking technology that basically puts interference in the drones to make sure that the drones get knocked out. That was Russian technology that was being used in there. We saw that because I put a clip out showing it. But coming back to it, for both of these countries, if you're smart, you know how US has basically made sure that Russia stayed in a perpetual war for 4 years with Ukraine.
Right.
If you are able to do the exact same thing and force America to stay in a long-term war with Iran, and you can keep helping Iran and supplying them, this would be, without a shadow of a doubt, the end of America and the rise of China. Because China then never had to go to war itself, and I don't think they've got the ability to go to war. I mean, the China man isn't a fighter. And so you basically have it where the Iranians fight with some of your technology, they do all the dirty work, and you never have to fight the American empire. It gets weakened, and then in the future, if there ever was going to be a fight, you've reduced that chance. Because I think if they were to beat Iran, America, in the future, there will be a point where they'll want to fight China, because I think the American style is, when they become weakened, they don't just leave it. They want to go out fighting, and I think they may have a war with China, whereas China don't want a war. They just want America to naturally weaken. So I think when you take all of those things into consideration, there's no doubt on my mind that China and Russia should be involved in this to make sure that Iran either wins, or make sure that, on the other hand, America doesn't win and stays in an elongated war.
Last question. What is the possibility of a false flag attack? Because this war is extremely unpopular. I was just speaking to some American soldiers building equipment. They might get drafted. They might have to go and be shipped overseas. They don't know anything. I mean, the vast majority of them have no idea why they're fighting, but when you explain to them, it takes 3 sentences, and they're like, oh, wait, no, this is a bad idea. It's super unpopular, and what's important is that you get the people on your side, right? So much of the reason that the U.S. lost against Vietnam was that it was such an unpopular war, and America knew that it was a disaster from the jump, but because of the sunk cost fallacy, they couldn't leave. If we needed 9/11 as a pretext in order to go and bomb the Middle East for 8 years, 10 years, however long you're thinking, maybe even up to now, if it's super unpopular, a false flag is how you justify it and how you get the people on your side again. Are there any signs that we could have an October 7th and a 9/11 style attack on America to gain support?
Yeah. So I've thought about this long and hard, that kind of false flag work. And I think there is a portion of the population especially those who are active on social media, who won't be manipulated by this false flag. For example, the Bondi attack, I do believe that was meant to be the false flag, but what they didn't expect was the Muslim guy to stop the shooter, and thus it didn't work. So they will definitely try a false flag. The false flag won't be to create national sentiment against Iran, because the majority of people have kind of woken up through social media aware and ready that there's going to be a false flag. But there are some people in America, especially Republicans, maybe more towards the MAGA, who still aren't happy with this war, but something like that will turn them. So I think that there is a chance that that will happen, although they don't need it. But let me ask you a question, actually, because you've been feuding with someone called Matt Walsh. And Matt Walsh is scared of you. He's scared of debating you because he knows you'll destroy him. And he works with the Israeli Wire. Now, Matt Walsh came out, I believe, on the first or second day and was praising the war. He said, this is amazing. This is brilliant. We went in, we killed the Ayatollah. No American lives have been lost. This is a brilliant situation that's occurred. But now, I believe, yesterday or the day before, he changed and he was like, oh, guess what? We've got no real plan. Things are not going well. I'm against it. So this switch up that's occurred, as someone who's been calling him out for his propaganda, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Matt Walsh is page. He's just an idiot, bro. Like, he's just gonna say whatever he thinks is gonna make him popular. He won't engage in a debate, because when he debates things like Haiti, who he says is like, oh, they're so terrible, they're low IQ. He doesn't know anything about why Haiti is the way it is. He doesn't have any knowledge of geopolitical issues. He just repeats the talking points that he's handed to by his boss. He's a good goy for Ben Shapiro. I would debate him whenever. He got this wrong completely. And he keeps saying that it's not that I'm against Israel. I'm against any sort of regime influencing America. It's like, wait, who are we in control of? It's so obvious. And he knows that because he knows who Ben Shapiro works for, but he's being willfully ignorant. But now that he sees that his audience is overwhelmingly against his Iran war, he has to shift in order to save face, right? We saw probably, which was a false flag attack in Austin, Texas, the Senegalese Muslim guy who was wearing a shirt that said property of Allah, and conveniently in his car he had a Quran. I think universally everyone saw that. It was like, all right, like that was one we were kind of disappointed, and it was insulting for Mossad to be that lazy with a false flag. Like, okay, really, this dude is, come on, let's be real. Everyone saw that immediately. But yeah, Matt Walsh is, he's just proven time and time again that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's nothing but a goy mouthpiece. Is Ben Shapiro's favorite goy to get the white Christians to support Israel without knowing what they're doing. It's not Qatar that's influencing America overwhelmingly. It's Israel, right? So if he's against other countries influencing us, and if he's America first, then he would be honest, but he's not. It's not about the truth for him. He doesn't care about his fellow patriots and his fellow Americans. If he did, he would not have got this wrong. He avoided the subject for so long, and now American soldiers are dying to support a war for Israel. They admitted yesterday that Iran posed no imminent threat to America. Then another congressman says, well, actually, they posed an imminent threat for the past 47 years. Okay, that's not what imminent means, idiot. Imminent means direct. How is it an imminent threat for half a century? Matt Walsh will never engage in debate, and he sold out his own people. And indirectly, I think these people who are advocating for war, it's pathetic to see, not only from the Western Iranians who are advocating for this war so much, them cheering on the bombing of their own people, 170 schoolgirls. They're innocent. They thought they were going to learn math that day, and they ended up, being victims of another war to support Jewish supremacy. But these Americans, too, who are yelling and begging and really advocating for this war while they sit comfortably at home, doing a podcast, doing a space. And although we are doing the same thing right here, Sulaiman, we both have an anti-war position. This is the most patriotic position you could have. You want to prevent U.S. from fighting wars for other countries. You want to prevent your fellow countrymen from dying, right? Matt Walsh, he does have, he's responsible for this happening because he used the platform to push it.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head in the last point where through all of it, but the most important bit is what you said at the end, which is what you want for yourself, you want for your fellow American. You want your life to be safe, so you want the lives of your fellow Americans to be safe. You don't want them to risk their lives, and actually, you want the same for any human being on this earth. This is what we believe in from a religious, spiritual perspective. All man is equal, and they're valued. And so what's distinct about Matt Walsh and these warmongers is they drum the bells of war, They're desperate for war, but then if they believe in it, they should be the first ones on the front line. Their children should be. But they really want your children to die. They want American children to die. They want Iranian children to die, but they don't want their own ones to die. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a complete cowardice. Like, how are you going to advocate for a war that you're not going to fight in? And the cowardice goes beyond that. So not only is someone like Matt Walsh not going to go and fight the war that he wants, but he won't even engage in a confrontation through rhetoric. He won't even have a debate. So he's afraid of the warfare that he wants, but he's afraid of even a confrontation through conversation. It's pathetic. These people should not be taken seriously anymore.
Well, there's no doubt he's afraid of you. I've seen him run from you about every issue. Because you could say, look, maybe he's just scared about one issue because he thinks that you're going to defeat him on that argument because you're in the right. But the fact that he's been afraid of you about every single issue he's spoken about demonstrates, A, that he's afraid of you, and B, he's not confident in himself because, as you said, he's just given a script and he reads a script. He's but an actor. Because
he knows he's wrong. And every single issue back and forth that I've had with Matt Walsh goes back to the same issue, that Israel controls America. And that was called a conspiracy theory for so long. And now we have complete proof that that is the case. We are in this war because we are serving Israel. We are in this war because they probably have blackmail on so many important people within government to get them to go and fight a war that they know is wrong. This has been proven. So this is no longer an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. We are now at war. So these people need to issue an apology. The people that you called anti-Semites for so long ended up being vindicated, and now people are dying. Well done.
You're completely right. And you're so right. And the reason why, and I was telling my audience this, they're always like, you know, Sulaiman, everything you predicted for the last 2-3 years to the specific point has always been right. What's the reason for it? And actually, the reason is very simple. Obviously, you need to know a bit of geopolitics, but it really is. If you understand who runs things, which is the Zionists, and then you understand what their ideology is, and you understand what their geopolitics is and what their political situation is, it's very easy to predict. Zionists run things, and every decision is based on that. So a good example is, I was speaking to Scott Ritter, and he didn't think the war was going to happen, and I said to him, look, I think it will happen because, look, you've got two contradictory interests. You've got the interest of Donald Trump, who has the midterms. For him, having a war, and he didn't think it was because he thought Trump wouldn't go to war with the midterms. And I said, you got basically Donald Trump, who's got the midterms coming up. If he goes to war, he's going to lose the midterms. He'll definitely lose the House. He probably will he may even lose the Senate if they get to 67 seats. And then what will happen is he'll be impeached. And he's got that on the one hand. On the other hand, he's got Netanyahu. Netanyahu has elections in November. I'm a big believer that they want Netanyahu to do all the dirty work so that they can have a new government in November, which is left-wing, and then blame Netanyahu for everything. Mm-hmm. And the new government will say, oh, look, Netanyahu went too far. You know, we have the same position as Dave Smith. We have the same position as a lot of these guys, you know, left-wing pro-Palestinian people, which is, there should have been a response, but that response went too hard. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, and I like all these people, but I'm just giving an example of their position will be the same as that. And they'll blame Netanyahu for everything. So Israel needs this war right now. Mm-hmm. So you've got Israel who needs it right now, and you got America who needs it after the midterms. And so that's why I knew the war was going to happen now, because we know who runs things.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was just speaking to IDF soldiers, and they're literally fighting this war. And I'm like, okay, well, they say that they don't like Netanyahu, but they're fighting a war that he's bringing them into. So I don't agree with Netanyahu. Okay, well, you're putting your life on the line for him. That's clearly the objective, right? They're going to place all the blame to save face and get people to like him again. It wasn't our fault. It was Netanyahu's fault. And they're all on the same team. It's all serving a greater purpose. And it really goes into eschatology. This is what it's about. You could see what Hegseth, again, he parades around like a Christian crusader, but he also believes that God blesses those who bless the state of Israel. Look at the narrative from Randy Fine and other congressmen who are saying things that if you said it about Judaism, you would get banned everywhere. Saying, stop the Islamification of America. There was another congressman saying today that how many Americans need to get Allahu Akbar before we realize that Islam is the problem. Imagine a sitting member of U.S. government saying, how long until we realize that Judaism is the problem? You would get excommunicated. You would never be able to run again. But everything that they're saying about Muslims is really what Israel is doing right now. They say Muslims are terrorists, but IDF is literally a terrorist organization. Israel is a terrorist state. They're bombing people far more than any of the terrorism that they blame radical Islamists for. This is clear propaganda, and it's about expansion of greater Israel. This is about serving their interests and serving the objectives that they've had for 3,000 years. They've always wanted to reclaim this land. They've always wanted to expand from the Euphrates to the Nile. And they're getting America to do their dirty work for them. But thanks so much for having me on, Sulaiman. I appreciate the great work you're doing in here.
SNEAKO.
And Adam, thanks you do great work too.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for coming on, SNEAKO. I really appreciate it. And everyone do give SNEAKO a follow. His YouTube channel is SNEAKO. His second channel, streaming channel, is SHNEAKO. And on Kick, he is SNEAKO. And it's really good content. Like, I love his content. Sometimes I'm about to go to bed, I listen to him, especially when he's like analyzing political stuff. So definitely love, and actually everything, because even the oppression, bro, you're literally the all-rounder. Like, your impressions are the best, your comedy is the best, your art is the best, and then your geopolitics is the best as well. Like, you really cover all avenues. So like, you're amazing. Everyone should definitely follow you.
Thank you. Well, I hope our stream doesn't put you to sleep.
SNEAKO, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Andrew. Was there...
Hold on, I gotta tell you something. real quick.
Yes, Josie.
Thank you. Go ahead. No, don't worry about it. It's just go ahead. Thank you, SNEAKO. Anyway, thanks for coming.
Oh, all right. Bye. Why did you shut her out? What was it? Oh, shout out to Sulaiman. That was very nice. Very nice of him. Wow. Why can't you guys be that nice to me ever? You guys are always mean. Look at him. Best of geopolitics, best art, best humor. That's what I'm talking about, man. Shout out to Sulaiman. W. Sulaiman. Zionism, the Zionists, the racist ideology of the Zionists, the Palestinian on October 7th. Thank you so much. He loves you a lot. I love him, man. He's doing great work. Okay, let me turn on the heat. It's fucking freezing in here.